goes with clowns of hobby. Fa la 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 la
Well, welcome back. In this segment of Pat and Ken at the holidays, we're going to take our yearly look at a treatment of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And then we're going to go back to the 70s for two classic TV episodes and their holiday treatments. We're going to be looking at an episode of Mary Tyler Moore and Happy Days.
Very good. So let's start off with our treatment of A Christmas Carol.
And this was your choice this year?
Yes, this was my choice this year. We take turns making a choice. There are approximately 5,000 versions of A Christmas Carol. It's a very odd version of A Christmas Carol.
It's animated.
It's animated, yes. It is a cartoon version. And
it's much more than a cartoon.
Yes, it is.
You're doing it a disservice by calling it a cartoon.
Okay. For some reason, it impacted me greatly the first time I saw it. I don't know in which context or what network showed it, but back in 1972, there was an animated version of A Christmas Carol made by the great Chuck Jones. Ken?
Right.
Chuck Jones.
Famous for Bugs Bunny cartoons.
Yes.
And also the driving force behind the animated treatment of How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
So the reason I picked it, as I said, it always stayed in the back of my mind, and then I discovered it was on YouTube.
And I had never seen it before.
Okay.
I'd never even actually heard of this version.
Okay, very good, very good.
It's,
now what makes it distinctive, of course, is that the voice of Scrooge is Alistair Sim.
Keep Christmas in your own way and let me keep it in mine.
Definitive version of A Christmas Carol. In fact, I recommend that to you. 1951, black and white, Alistair Sim, A Christmas Carol, but he revisited it, which is very interesting. Very interesting. So we know the story, Ken. Let's just get into the.
Well, the first thing that struck me about this film, this animated film, is it's very short. It's only about 30 minutes. I think where they really focused in making this animated film was on the animation.
Yes.
The animation is unlike anything I've ever seen before.
It's extraordinary.
And this was created by what I would call animators. This was not people sitting down at a computer.
Right.
It had texture to it. I mean, it was the shadow and the lighting of it, just the way they moved the story along.
The air was filled with moaning phantoms. Their misery was plainly that they had lost the power to interfere for good in human matters.
These were pros doing the old ink and movement animation.
Correct. It has a certain crudeness to it, but that's that's part of its charm.
But I will also say, and I said to the detriment of the story, I felt that the back end of the story got short shrift because of the front end.
Short shrift?
Short shrift, Ken.
More vodka, Pat?
Well, I don't mind if I do. What was amazing about the sequences with the ghosts is the way that they created motion and the ghost of Christmas Present, the way that he went from place to place was truly
and the way,
astounding.
I mean,
it's beautiful.
Was born on Christmas Day to save us all from Satan's path when we have gone astray.
The image that I remember from when I was a kid, and I was reminded when I saw it only last night, was the sequence where Scrooge is going through his house and he's completely lit by a candle.
And that's all you see.
And that's all you see is his face going through the blackness of his dreary home.
The line from the book is that darkness was cheap and Scrooge liked it.
Yes.
This is absolutely a treasure, a lost treasure, I would say.
Yes.
But I would definitely give this 4 stars.
Okay. Well,
I'm going to give it 4 bells.
4 bells, right. Ken. I'm going to take a half bell off.
It's still worth seeing.
For the truncation of the story. 3.5 bells for me for the animated version, 1972, Chuck Jones, A Christmas Carol.
Well, the next feature in this segment is our yearly look at some holiday treatments from some TV shows.
Famous TV shows.
Famous TV shows, classic TV shows.
Classic, if you will.
And this year we go back to the 70s.
The 70s! Ken, do you remember the 70s?
Staying alive, Pat. Staying alive.
Staying alive.
I'm disconnecting. Disconnecting. Well, I chose an episode of Happy Days.
And Sunday, Monday,
Happy Days.
Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days.
I always really enjoyed Happy Days. I enjoyed Happy Days before it really became too popular. I enjoyed it when it really was. It was a spin-off from American Graffiti, and the early episodes of Happy Days really captured, I think, the essence of the 50s.
Yes, and you picked a episode from the first season.
Whose sock is this on the tree? Hey, Dad. Is that you, Chuck?
It basically is a very simple premise. The Cunningham family are going to gather on Christmas Eve.
Yes. And
the father is adamant that this year it's just going to be family. We're just going to have the traditional Christmas Eve. We're going to roast chestnuts and
drink some cider and trim the tree, and then later on, I'll read The Night Before Christmas.
Jingle bells, boring all the way.
And the story basically goes from Fonzie is telling everyone he's going to visit family for the holidays, and the Cunningham family come to find out that he really has no place to go on Christmas Eve.
Yes.
Fonzie, you're staying here, and I don't want to hear another word about it.
Hey, Mrs. C, my mother used to talk to me like that. The only one who used to get away with it, too. Until you. I accept your invitation.
Fonzie is a background character,
right,
but they bring him to the forefront. But he isn't that magical guy that he became.
He's not too over the top, you know. And it really started to lose some of its charm later on. And as we ultimately know, the show jumped the shark, literally.
But Happy Days aficionados say they like this episode because Fonzie and Chuck actually interact.
Right.
Yeah, and I went through the whole string with this new bulb. Yeah, well, did you ever think that this new bulb might be the bad one, too? Well, it crossed my mind.
Again, it still had that feel of the innocence of the 50s that the show, as it went on in years, kind of lost.
Okay, well, let's go to the Mary Tyler Moore episode, and this one was called Christmas and the Hard Luck Kid. Right. I'll tell you why I picked my choice. This was a show, and this is interesting. We used to take long trips as a kid. And
from the farm?
Yeah, from the farm to my grandmother's house. It was like a 400-mile trip. Remember the old cassettes? Remember the old days of the...
Yes.
We would actually record television shows on those cassettes so we could listen to them on our long trips. And one of the episodes was this one. The premise basically is that Mary, who is working the first year at WJM TV, she's preparing her Christmas, you know, she's going to go home.
Plans to go back and visit with the family.
Right, exactly. And suddenly Lou has to break the news to her.
Mr. Grant.
You gotta work on Christmas.
I've gotta work on Christmas?
Well, that's another way of putting it.
It turns out, since she is the least senior of the staff, she has to cover the station for Christmas Eve.
The big news night in Minnesota.
Right. This is kind of an establishing episode of that historic series where we see the friendships start to develop.
Right.
We were gonna call you, but Ted wanted it to be a surprise. Were you surprised?
Was I surprised?
Right.
I think once you develop a really strong character like a Ted Baxter or a Lou Grant, it almost becomes easier to write for them because you can really feel how the character is going to react.
That's the perfect way to put it. So,
'tis the season to be jolly. La 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 la.
Come we now our gay apparel.
let's go to our Christmas bells on this one. Ken, the Happy Days episode. How many bells?
I would give it 3.5.
3.5.
It was a nice. It kind of took you back to a time where Christmas was with family.
I'm going to go 3 only because I thought the ending was a little soft on that one. So, okay, on Mary Tyler Moore, I'm going to go 3.5 on that one, only because it gave me a little rush of nostalgia to see it again, as I pretty much had all the lines in my head too, Ken, because we listened to that tape several times. What's your Christmas bells?
I'm going to give it 3.
3.
I think it's a classic TV show.
Yes.
And definitely worth the time of the audience to check out and see if they enjoy it also.
Our next segment of Pat and Ken at the holidays, we're going surreal, baby. We're going surreal. And we're
Surreally?
Yes. We're going to look at 2 weird, surreal Christmas holiday movies. That's on our next segment. Pat and Ken at the holidays. Get there!